The 2020 M1 MacBook Air is selling brand new in the US for $649, a whopping $300 less than the cheapest 2024 MacBook Air. Just that both have the same 18-hour battery life, same display panel and an Apple-made chip, and we will shortly see why this is probably the most game-changing point. So, here are 7 reasons why this is the best value MacBook we've ever had, and 7 reasons it might not be for you. Though, the moment you pick this thing up, you notice its design is aged quite a bit. You see, just for context, both successors of this MacBook Air came with a new boxy design, replacing the iconic wedge. The only advantage being, it makes this laptop appear thinner than it actually is. I mean, on its thicker side, it's barely thinner than my 14-inch MacBook Pro. On the opposite side, it's not even close. Beyond this, there's not much else, especially since the redesigned MacBook Airs are evenly half as thin as this MacBook Air's thickest point. Though I must say, the wedge has a bit more character. Now, love it or hate it, let's not be misled by its slightly dated look, because that's the only dated part of this MacBook, maybe with one exception which we'll get to, but the rest is top tier. I mean, just for starters, we've got the same great keyboard as in any current MacBook, including the new function key row with software shortcuts and an insanely reliable Touch ID button. Plus a big glass trackpad, the exact same one as in any other MacBook, just a tad smaller. But trust me, try it once and you'll hate using any other plasticky trackpad. And that's not even mentioning the overall build quality. You see, no creaking whatsoever, the smooth hinge, metal build, and being able to open it one-handed are all things I've come to appreciate about MacBooks, including this Air. And again, all of this in a $650 laptop, very hard to match at this price. So, what's the trade-off then? A bad display? Actually, no. Sure, zooming out, it doesn't exactly look modern right next to the latest near borderless MacBooks. But zooming in, we'll notice that this is basically the exact same display Apple still bakes into their MacBook Airs 4 years later. And who would blame them? It's a great looking high-res LCD panel with vibrant colors. Though 3 trade-offs here. 1. It's 0.3 inches smaller than the redesigned MacBook Airs. 2. It's locked at 60 Hz, but that's a standard MacBook Air thing, and I hardly ever notice it. What I do notice is 3. The brightness. At 400 nits, it's 100 nits dimmer than the 2024 MacBook Air. Indoors, it's totally fine, but on a sunny day, you do wish for a bit more brightness. Okay. Outside done, let's check out the internals. And that's where it gets really interesting. Look, what we'll find in here is an M1 chip. Now, just for context, for 15 years, Intel made the chips for Apple's PCs. With this MacBook Air, Apple made the switch to its own chip, the M1. And sure, this boosts profits for Mr. Cook and his team, but it also meant some vast improvements for us consumers, which for starters means insane performance gains. When this laptop launched, Apple made some pretty wild claims like 3.5 times faster CPU performance or 5 times faster graphics, and that's comparing it to the previous MacBook Air, released just a few months prior. And generally speaking, reviewers were blown away by the performance of this entry-level MacBook. Just for instance, Geekbench single-core scores put this MacBook Air above every previous Mac, and multi-core scores too were very high, up there with Apple's big Intel chip desktop PCs. Plus, this one huge performance bump meant that the following M2 and M3 chips are actually not that much faster, so buying a newer Mac won't necessarily mean noticeable everyday performance gains. Stop flexing, man. Plus, this ridiculous performance bump does not mean less battery life, actually it means way more. Because those M1 chips are based on smartphone processors, they are insanely efficient and need way less juice. Apple advertised this laptop with a battery life of 18 hours, which remains unchanged even with the 2024 MacBook Air. Plus, in most battery tests, this thing ran for slightly longer than its successor, the M2 MacBook Air, and just slightly shorter than the M3. And again, most other laptops don't even come close to this. that's good. Before we move on to the trade-offs, because there are actually some bigger ones, we must quickly talk about software. Because of Apple having full control over their own chip, they can perfectly integrate it into their ecosystem. So, just for instance, we can wirelessly use an iPad as a second monitor, run iPhone and iPad apps natively on this Mac, or connect an iPhone's camera as a webcam. Plus, this 4-year-old MacBook will even get all the fancy new AI features coming later this year with macOS 15. This is good news, considering that even the base iPhone 15, released just 10 months ago, will not gain any new AI features. Okay, deep breath. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So, let's quickly check out 6 major drawbacks why you wouldn't want to buy this MacBook in 2024, going from the minor flaws to the biggest cause. First off, the webcam. It's still 720p, while the latest MacBooks feature a 1080p camera. Does that make a difference? Well, slightly, but honestly, both are just good enough for video calls. Speakers are very good on this laptop and, as always, way better than in any other Windows laptop. But not quite as full as in the redesigned MacBooks. What's more annoying though is the lack of ports. We get just 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack, so you likely need to buy an adapter. Now, the new MacBook Airs are the same, but they have an extra port for MagSafe charging. So when charging, you still have 2 free ports, while on this MacBook Air, you're down to just 1. On the same note, we can only connect to 1 external display. Though I have a feeling that's okay for 99% of MacBook Air buyers. But if you're rocking a dual screen control room setup on your desk, you'll have to grab another laptop. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the MacBook Air's fanless design. Because of the M1 chip's efficiency, it can run stressful tasks across multiple apps without getting noticeably warmer. It's a huge perk because it always runs in complete silence. I mean, it has no choice. But when you do actually push it to the limits with heavy video editing, programming or 3D modeling, it can turn into a flaw, because as soon as it gets too hot, it has to throttle performance. But sure, if that's your job, you get another higher spec laptop anyways. And speaking of specs, we can't forget that for $649 we're getting the base model of the MacBook Air, meaning 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of SSD storage. For everyday tasks, that's more than enough. But if you're after a MacBook Air with extra RAM or storage for whatever reason, 1, you'll have a hard time finding this older model with those upgrades, and 2, even if you do, don't buy it. Because as soon as the price goes up, a more recent MacBook will be a wiser investment. Plus, this would also mean a longer period of software updates. You see, typically Macs get feature updates for 6 to 7 years. So that's another 4 years for our MacBook. Plus, 2 more years of security updates. So earliest in 2030, you'll have to find another use case for this thing. Though don't pin me down on that, as Apple doesn't guarantee these things, and especially with bigger on-device AI updates, a newer laptop is certainly slightly more future-proof. So, with all those things being said, do I recommend the 2020 M1 MacBook Air in 2024? Sure, it might not be the flashiest laptop out there, but it's more than good enough. It's got the power, a ridiculous battery life, a great display, and all of that with an unbeatable price tag. Plus, upcoming AI upgrades and other exciting features that will make this MacBook feel brand new again this fall. And if you want a hands-on with those, you should watch this video next. Alright, I will see you there. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.